It's 0653 hours on the 25th of October, 1944, and Commander Ernest Evans stands on the bridge of the USS Johnston in the choppy waters off Samar. He commands a small, unarmored Fletcher-class destroyer, part of an escort carrier task unit codenamed Taffy 3. For weeks, they have performed routine support duty, screening lumbering escort carriers and providing shore bombardment for General MacArthur's landings on Leyte. Their position is supposed to be safe. Far to the north, Admiral William Halsey's massive Third Fleet, with its battleships and heavy fleet carriers, is supposed to be guarding the northern approaches. Then, at 0643, a lookout spots anti-aircraft burst over the northern horizon. Evans scans the morning mist through his binoculars. His regimental calm instantly shatters. Emerging from the shadows of San Bernardino Strait is the center force of the Imperial Japanese Navy. 4 battleships, 8 cruisers and 11 destroyers. Among them looms the Yamato, the largest and most heavily gunned battleship ever constructed, boasting massive 18.1-inch guns that can fire armor-piercing shells weighing over 3,000 pounds past the horizon. The entire Japanese surface armada is bearing down directly on Taffy 3 at full speed. The disparity is beyond comprehension. Taffy 3 consists of 6 slow escort carriers converted from merchant hulls, 3 small destroyers, and 4 tiny destroyer escorts. They have no heavy armor. Their heaviest guns are 5-inch pea shooters, meant for anti-aircraft defense and surface harassment. If the Japanese break through here, the vulnerable transport ships in Leyte Gulf will be massacred, and thousands of American soldiers trapped on the beaches will be cut off and destroyed. Evans does not wait for orders. He does not request permission to retreat. He grabs the bridge microphone and gives the order that will stun everyone in the task force. All ahead flank, prepare to attack. The USS Johnston swings out of the escort screen and turns north, heading straight toward the Japanese battle line. Evans is charging an armada of 23 warships alone. This is the story of the 90 minutes that followed. If you want more of the war told this way, from the bridge and the primary record, subscribe. Black smoke pours from the Johnston's twin funnels as her turbines spool up to 34 knots. The little destroyer weaves and zigs, cutting a white wake across the grey water. Evans orders the smoke generators activated, laying a dense chemical fog to shield the escort carriers behind him. The Japanese spot the lone destroyer rushing into their teeth. At 0700, the Japanese heavy cruisers open fire. Geysers of colored water, green, red and yellow from the dyed shells used for fire spotting, erupt around the Johnston. The shells scream overhead with terrifying volume. A single direct hit from an 8-inch or 14-inch gun will vaporize the destroyer. Evans watches the splashes, timing the enemy salvos, and violently alters rudder angles, literally chasing the enemy's previous splashes because shells rarely hit the same spot twice. At 0710, the Johnston reaches 18,000 yards. Her forward 5-inch guns begin barking in rapid succession. The shells strike the superstructure of the heavy cruiser Kumano, the lead ship in the Japanese cruiser column. Sparks and smoke erupt from the cruiser's bridge, but Evans knows 5-inch shells cannot pierce heavy belt armor. He needs to get within 10,000 yards, the lethal range of his Mark 15 torpedoes. The ship plunges through walls of falling water. Splinters of shrapnel pepper the bridge and hull. Evans leans over the Polaris, his face stone cold, tracking the closing distance: 12,000 yards, 11,000 yards, 10,000 yards. Fire torpedoes. The Johnston unleashes all 10 of her torpedoes in a fan spread toward the Kumano. Evans immediately spins the ship hard right, laying down thick black smoke to cover their escape. 2 minutes pass in agonizing silence. At 0720, 2 massive explosions tear through the water. 2 torpedoes slam directly into the Kumano's bow, blowing it completely off. The Japanese flagship cruiser spins out of control, crippled and out of the fight, forcing the cruiser Suzuya to break off to assist her. A single American destroyer has just knocked the lead cruiser out of the battle. The Johnston turns back to rejoin the carriers under the cover of a sudden rain squall. But as they emerge from the rain, the world explodes. 3 14-inch shells from the battleship Kongo smash into the Johnston's hull, followed seconds later by 3 6-inch rounds. The heavy shells slice through the thin steel plating like paper. The hits tear through the aft engine room, severing steam lines and cutting power to the aft gun turrets. The ship loses half her electrical power, and her speed drops from 34 knots to barely 17. The blast wave on the bridge is catastrophic. Shrapnel tears through the open superstructure. The blast rips the clothes from Evans' chest and shreds 2 fingers from his left hand. Blood covers his uniform, but he refuses medical attention. Wrapping his hand in a handkerchief, he pushes through the smoke. The steering engine is dead. Evans descends to the open aft steering station, shouting orders down an open hatch to men manually turning the rudder by hand in the sweltering compartment below. From the carriers behind them, Admiral Clifton Sprague watches the slaughter and orders all available aircraft into the sky without pause. Wildcat fighters and Avenger torpedo bombers launch with whatever they have: high-explosive bombs, anti-personnel charges, and some with no ammunition at all, making dry runs just to distract the Japanese gunners. Seeing the Johnston's ferocious stand, the other 2 American destroyers, the Hall and Hermann, along with the tiny destroyer escort Samuel B. Roberts, throw themselves into the charge, joining the desperate fight. By ORI 800, the Johnston is limping, coughing thick black smoke, and firing her remaining forward guns manually. Japanese cruisers are closing in from the port side to deliver the killing blow to the carriers. Evans sees the threat. Despite his crippled speed, despite losing half his guns, Evans turns the Johnston directly toward the advancing cruisers to draw their fire. At 7,000 yards, the Johnston opens fire on the cruiser tone, scoring over a dozen direct hits on her superstructure. The cruiser shifts its massive batteries away from the escort carriers and concentrates its entire fire on the Johnston. Shells tear into the destroyer's hull. Steel decks buckle, fires rage through the mess hall, and repair parties work knee-deep in water and fuel. At ORI 845, Evans spots a line of 4 Japanese destroyers, led by a light cruiser making a torpedo run on the American carriers. Evans immediately orders the Johnston to cross their T and interpose his battered ship between the Japanese flotilla and the carriers. With only 2 functional 5-inch guns remaining, the Johnston charges the entire destroyer division. The gun crews, sweating in smoke and choking on fumes, load shells by hand every 4 seconds. They pump hundreds of rounds into the lead destroyer, setting its bridge ablaze and forcing the entire Japanese destroyer squadron to fire their torpedoes prematurely from too great a distance. Every single Japanese torpedo misses the carriers. The Japanese destroyers turn their full fury on the Johnston. Surrounded on all sides by enemy ships, the Johnston becomes an inferno. Steel fragments shred what remains of the superstructure. The remaining engine room is hit and completely flooded with seawater. At 0910, the last engine fails. The Johnston grinds to a dead stop in the water. Japanese destroyers close to point-blank range, circling the dying ship and pouring heavy gunfire into her hull. Even with no power, the Johnston's No. 4 gun continues firing manually until its ammunition is completely exhausted. At 0945, Evans gives the inevitable order: abandon ship. Men scramble off the blood-stained decks into the oily water. At 10:10, the USS Johnston rolls over to starboard and begins to slide beneath the waves. As she goes down, the captain of the Japanese destroyer Yuki Kazi is seen standing on his bridge, saluting the sinking American ship in tribute to its impossible bravery. Commander Ernest Evans was seen in the water helping his wounded crew onto life rafts, but he was never seen again. the sacrifice of the Johnston and the ships of Taffy III achieved what military strategists considered impossible. Believing he was fighting a massive American fleet and unnerved by the ferocious, suicidal resistance of the destroyers and carrier aircraft, the Japanese commander, Admiral Takeo Kurita, panicked. Convinced that continuing into the Gulf was a fatal trap, he ordered the entire Japanese center force to turn around and retreat. Leyte Gulf was saved. Of the Johnston's 327 crew members, 186 were lost, including 92 who survived the sinking but died awaiting rescue in shark-infested waters over the next 50 hours. Commander Ernest Evans was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, the first Native American naval officer to receive the nation's highest military decoration. His charge off Samar remains the ultimate standard of naval courage against overwhelming odds.